Welcome to KYD. Today we are going to do a review on the 2019 Ford F450. And the reason is because I've been getting so many questions about this truck. We bought it about 6 months ago, and during that time we've put 14,000 miles on it. And during that time, Trish and I have learned some things that we like about the truck, we don't like so much about the truck, and I just wanted an opportunity to talk about some of the pros, the cons, the upgrades, and the mods. So as you know, if you've been around KYD for a while, we've teamed up with etrailer this season, and they have provided the B&W Companion fifth wheel hitch, which we absolutely love, and also the BaKflip bed cover, the WeatherTech mats, and now just recently we installed Airlift on the truck with an onboard air compressor and tank. In fact, we got it installed with the guys down at Max-Bilt in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. These guys are absolutely legit. I rolled up to their shop, and next thing you know, I'm having breakfast with their team.
Man, it smells good in here.
Yeah.
Like really good. Like
some leftover bacon and a couple of eggs. You want some?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
So after breakfast, we backed the truck into their shop, and I have some footage of installing that air system, which I'm excited to share with you. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the towing capacity, the pros, the cons, some of the numbers like fuel range, and how it rides. So without further ado, let's just roll the F450 intro. Okay, so before we dive into the pros and cons, let's first talk about why I ended up going with an F450 opposed to an F350, aside from the fact that Trish got a dog. So the main reason is that the F450 has a wide front axle. And because it has that wide front axle, you can crank these wheels over a lot further than the F250 we previously had, and it makes for a much tighter turning radius. Combined with the long bed and a fifth wheel, I can turn 92 degrees on the fifth wheel over the bed. So RV sites like the park we're in right now, where I might have had a hard time getting a F250 and a bumper pull in a site, I can get a giant 43-foot toy hauler into a site without any problem. So the turning radius is a big advantage. I think the thing that I have found is a misconception of the F450s is the price. A lot of times I'll pull in somewhere and someone will look at the truck and, oh man, that's a nice truck, it's a $100,000 truck. The Platinums get a lot of credit across the entire Ford brand for elevating a misconception of price. The fact is, this F450 was $1,000 more MSRP than my F250 that had a few more bells and whistles, like the big panoramic sunroof and things like that. So it's important when you decide a truck to take a look at what trim package you want, because the trim packages really is what takes the price way up. And so, like I said, this was about $1,000 more than our F250, but the reason that I really like diesel, and I do somewhat encourage people to go with diesel if it's not going to stop them from getting on the road and get going, is because diesel holds their value so well. And if you're an RVer that puts on miles on trucks like we do, diesels have a high resale value after they reach 100,000 miles. So I think resale value depreciation is a huge factor when deciding a truck. One quick way, I guess is a little bit turning into a buyer's guide, one quick way to look at a truck you want to buy is go onto the internet and look, the truck you're looking at, look for that truck a year down the road with 25,000 more miles and see what they're selling for. Compare that to diesel, compare that to gas, look at different truck brands, and see how much is this truck going to cost you in depreciation in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years that you're going to own it. So that would be a good place to start. All right, so getting back to the F450. So the wide front axle is kind of the standard reason of why I told people I kind of went with the F450 over the 350. But the real reason, just between you and I, is because of that wide axle. It has this huge fender, and it just looks mean. It's such a long truck, and the newer bodies have a little shorter front end, and I'd say the thing just looks like a bulldog to me. I love the way it looks, and Trish agrees. That's the most important thing. So speaking of the front end, these are the wheels that I just love so much. And when we met up with my brother in Detroit and we rolled up and he saw the truck for the first time, he goes, oh man, are you gonna like go get some new wheels? I'm like, new wheels? Are you joking? Like, this is the wheel that says I am an F450. I love this thing. Okay, let's talk about the gear ratio on the F450. It is a 430 gear ratio, which is super low. And when you're pulling 20,000 pounds, that's a great gear ratio to have because it's going to give you super performance especially right off of a stoplight when you're going slow speeds. Now, the drawback to having such a low gear ratio is that when you get to highway speeds, when you're not towing and you don't need all that torque, the RPMs are going to be up close to 2,500, which is not that high, but it does feel like it's wound up a bit tight. I think in hindsight, a great gear ratio, it's just not available in a 450, would be the 410 that comes in the F350. That's I think that's a good gear ratio that's kind of the middle of the road. You get the high performance, but you also get slightly better fuel economy, and you're not wound up so tight at highway speeds. In terms of the other gear ratio that's available in the 350 would be the 373. Not bad if you have a smaller fifth wheel, but when you start getting up into toy haulers, I think that's maybe not quite low enough. Now, one quick point, when you're buying an F450, the nice thing about an F450 is that all 450s have the 4.3 gear ratio, they're all dualies, they're all long beds, and they all have the 48-gallon fuel tank. So there's a lot of things you don't have to worry about checking the VIN and making sure you're buying the right vehicle. A lot of times when you're buying an F350 and you want the 410, if you don't look carefully, you could end up signing for the deal and finding out that it's not the gear ratio that you wanted. So I did like that when I was searching for an F450, I didn't have to worry about that. They were all equipped with all the important stuff built in. Okay, this would not be complete if we didn't talk about the back seating area of the cab. And I will tell you straight out of the gate that where Ram has Ford beat hands down is in these back seats. I have no idea why they do not recline. Even if they don't recline this way, because I know that Ram has the mega cab where it has some room, I think it would be, I mean, simple. Look, I'm not an engineer, but if this seat slid forward a little bit, then at least it would recline. It doesn't have to go back, but there's plenty of space for our kids. And you know, we've got teenage kids and they're fine. They never complain about not having enough space, but the fact this doesn't go back is kind of a problem. What I do like about the design is up under here. This is the seat that we keep our first aid kit. It always stays in the truck. And this right here is where we keep jumper cables and some extra PSI stuff and Caleb's headphones, etc. But I don't want to do it now. Obviously this is a mess and I really should have cleaned it up for a truck review video, but this is how it is that these things fold down and this goes flat, and then you've got this entire space where we've put 3 bikes back here before. Well, at least in our F250 we did, and this entirely is flat. While we're back here, so you've got a 12 volt here, you've got 2 USBs, and this should be, oh, here it is, this is 110 for power cable. So this is nice. Kids never complain about this, and if you ever load too much on this, there's a fuse. You can look in your manual and change out the fuse. I've had to do that once. Another disadvantage of the F450 is how dirty the inside is. And you're probably wondering, what does that have to do with an F450? And the reason is I hardly ever get it washed. And the reason for that is I can't ever find a place to wash it. One of the things that you really don't think about when you're considering buying a dually is where you're gonna get it washed. Not until I bought one did I realize that you can't just go to a regular car wash. Even a nice full service car wash typically has a track that you send the truck through, and it just doesn't fit. So you end up having to find hand washes or truck washes, and surprisingly, they are harder to find than you would think. End up having to go to a place like this, a truck shop with just a truck wash to get both of them washed, but it is a pain, it is more expensive, and as a result, I do not wash the truck near as much as I would like to. Let's talk about the ride in the F450, and for that I wanted to make sure Trish was here because we've done 14,000 miles on this truck. You know what this truck ride's like.
I'm a driver.
How would you describe it?
Strong.
What's that mean?
Like rigid but comfortable.
Rigid but comfortable. You know,
yes.
When Trish and I were test driving this truck, we were coming out of an F250, and we immediately noticed that it was just rigid's the perfect word for it. It's tight.
Yes.
It's not necessarily rough. It's not uncomfortable.
It's not uncomfortable.
But it's tight.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that comes from the 19.5 Continental tires. I think we've got the newer model. I think it's like an HD3 tire. I think it's a great highway tire, but it's 110 PSI. And that's a very stiff,
yes,
firm tire. It's great for towing. It's great on the highway, but it definitely adds some rigidity to the truck. Now, when you put the load on an F450, it gets far more comfortable. Right now, we're going 65 miles per hour on a concrete freeway. You can see we're not uncomfortable.
No.
But you can feel it.
Right, but we didn't go buy a sedan. We're not looking to like get in the compact
Yes.
parking space, right?
And the other thing you should know about the F450 is that it does not have a built-in TPMS system. And if you're not familiar with that, that's a tire pressure monitor system, so you can look down at your dash and see exactly what your tire PSI is at. And so instead of that, we use the TST system.
The trusty.
Yes, and I picked up this from Techno RV, and the reason that I like to partner with Techno RV is that Eric and Tammy provide a tremendous amount of support to their customers.
Yes.
There is a phone number.
There's
to
like
call.
a real person
There's a
answering
real
real questions. My thing won't charge. Okay,
Yeah.
what model number do you
And they'll
have?
step it through you.
And then they go through. We watched this actually happen, so it was pretty
So
cool.
if you need help programming this, there's a phone number to call, there's service, there's support, and they do videos on how to get all the stuff. So I think this is a great place if you're looking for a TPMS system, even for your RV. But if you have an F450, it's great because you can add, in our case, all 6 tires on the rig.
And they like rotate through,
Yeah.
so you can like see. Oh, okay, that one is this one's this, and then you can
And
set
then
it.
you can
So
put all 6 tires on the trucks and your spares. So at any time you know what you are. So that's kind of a good way to get around it.
I think so.
I thought I would share some bells and whistles real quick. So one of the things that I really like in terms of bells and whistles are these mirrors. So there's a little knob right here, and I can take the mirrors out like that. There's a light here on the end. I think there's a switch here. I don't use it very often, but I don't know if you can see, but a light came on. It turns out like this. And then of course I can hit this button and they fold in. Pretty cool. All right, let's talk about these camera systems. Overall, I'm very impressed with Ford's camera package. I think they call it like the ultimate towing camera system. The standard camera that I'm sure you're familiar with is the bumper camera, and that hasn't changed. But they've added a few more cameras. The camera that faces forward so that you can see how close you are to the car in front of you is enormously helpful, especially for how long this truck is. But the camera that is mind-blowing is the 360 camera. They have cameras underneath these mirrors on the side and probably a few other places. And it creates a top-down image where you can see the actual lines that you're parking in. Or if you're parallel parking, you can see the curb. Or if there's even shopping carts or anything else, you can see all of that. And when you're parking a vehicle this big, that has really been nice. But the camera that I absolutely find very ineffective is the fifth wheel camera. The problem with these fifth wheel cameras is they're too broad of a view. Even when I zoom in, today's not bad, but sometimes the light is hitting the camera directly and it just blows out, it overexposes the entire screen. So one of the things I've just had to learn to do is, well, I mean, of course I would love to flip over and just look at the actual kingpin going into the fifth wheel hitch, but the problem with the BaKflip, I love the BaKflip, but the drawback to it is that when they fold up, it blocks my view. So I have learned to have to use the center headrest as a guide to go backing into the truck, and sometimes it takes me 2 or 3 times. All right, let's talk about some of these upgrades. This particular model did not come with a tailgate assist, so I added this DZ when we visited eTrailer out in St. Louis. That video is coming. So just a simple $34 thing here, and you put it on, no big deal. In fact, speaking of eTrailer, all the upgrades that we did is on a eTrailer page that we have, so it's very easy to find. If you just go to keepyourdaydream.com/eTrailer, it'll redirect you to that page. The other thing we did is we added these WeatherTech mats right here. This particular rig did come with mats. I really like these WeatherTech mats because I think they look clean, they look stock. I still need to add ones on the front. If you remember in our weekly episodes, we had an issue with this mysterious thumping. It turned out it was the Ford factory flap. It would generate heat from this tire, and then it would come and it would hit this tailgate. BaKflip works just like this. There's a little cable right there, and you punch that cable down, and then you flip it over like that. You flip it 3 times. Hard to do with one hand. Then once it's forward like this, there's some snaps that you put up here like this for when you're towing. I love the BaKflip. I love the material it's made of. I love that it's waterproof. I like that it's simple to use, and I really like that most of the time I only flip it up once to get what I need, and then I can flip it back down. The drawback is, as I've mentioned, that it covers up my view of the fifth wheel hitch, and so for that I've had to learn a new way to hook up, which is kind of a drawback. The alternative is that I would go with a different type of system that would roll or slide, and they're just not as seamless as I like, and they would take up some room. So I'd probably do it again, even though it's a bit of a hassle to hook up. Okay, let's talk about this B&W Companion Hitch. So when we went from a travel trailer to a fifth wheel, and of course we went to a massive fifth wheel, 20,000 pound GCVWR, I wanted a hitch that was 100% solid. And if you remember, we did a collaboration video with JD from Big Truck Big RV. I asked him which hitch I should go with, and he said, if for security, for comfort, for performance, go with the B&W Companion Hitch, 25,000 rated, and use the 4-puck system. So this is, in my opinion, as solid as it gets. It's simple, it's completely durable, and I have had 0 issues with it. In fact, I even have the Teflon plate, so it's not greasy. It's pretty easy. I did have a bit of an issue. This wasn't due to the hitch, but it was too low, and so I ended up having to raise it up just to keep everything level. So I'm on the highest setting, as you can see here. But the drawback to this hitch, and I didn't really know it being full-time until I started getting some feedback, is that this is basically a permanent hitch. And so, you know, if you're not full-time, you lose your truck bed, which would be kind of disappointing. So a lot of people who are not full-time and they want to use the B&W Companion Hitch, there's another option for a turnover ball option, where you can get that turnover ball in the middle, and instead of going into these 4 puck mounts, then you would put it over that ball and then lock it in. It's pretty heavy, but you could get it out with some help, and then you can have it removable. But I love this hitch. eTrailer provided this hitch, and I said, you know, if I didn't like it, we would swap out and try different ones, and they were cool with that, and I wouldn't use anything else. Now, if we were to go part-time, or maybe if I had a short bed and I needed a slider, I'd have to look into options. But for an F450 long bed, pulling a triple axle trailer with 20,000 GCVWR, personally, I think this is the way to go. Okay, so let's get this folded down. One of the differences between a long bed and a short bed is that these BaKflip panels are a little bit longer, and as a result, you're just going to make sure they clip in correctly, like this. And the instructions say that you shouldn't go like this. You should lift it up, close it, and drop it down like that. Okay, the only thing left to talk about now is the air. So before we go into the pros and cons of the Airlift onboard system, let's first jump over to Eau Claire, Wisconsin at Max-Bilt and get the thing installed. Alright, so last time I did this install, we put this Airlift switch. This is the pneumatic switch that you can adjust the pressure when the back end goes down. We put it in the middle console. After I had done it, I got a text message from General Mark Wise, and he put his right here. And I just thought it was a cleaner install, so have at it.
This one is the sheet I have up front.
So that's the bracket that holds the bag?
Yes, this is the bracket.
And are we gonna eliminate the, what are those yellow things called?
So the jounce bumpers or bump stops.
Bump stops, yeah. Do those get eliminated?
Yep, those are gone. This kind of airbags will take the place. So when they're needed for load leveling, they will level the load. And when they're needed to act as your bump stop with them deflated, that's their other job they get to be. We found a spot up above the spare tire on the bed cross member where we can shoot 2 rib nuts in towards the front of the truck and mount the tank like this. And if we need a little bit more oomph for rigidity, we're gonna make 2 brackets that will also come up and bolt into the underside of the same said cross member. So that's what we're gonna do.
Dude, I think that's so clean. That's such a great place for that gauge.
Yeah, we have 49 PSI. 49.50, 49.8, 50.
What's the PSI?
131.2.
Oh, that's high.
Yeah, well, probably, I think 125 is when it's supposed to shut off.
Oh, I see.
There's probably a little bit of a residual.
Only I got one question for you. Are we supposed to have so many extra parts, so many leftover parts?
Oh.
It's normal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have as many as I do when I do a project.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're concerned about these, usually the first thing I would do, I just do this.
You just move them over.
Yeah, then you don't even see the extra parts. It's not really a big deal. It's pretty typical, especially when you know what you're doing. So a lot of times manufacturers like to add things in
that aren't necessary.
Yeah, it's just extra stuff.
But in all seriousness, in this case, there were a couple things that we determined were not necessary.
Exactly. We opted out of, like the remote filter hose. We were able to mount the filter on the pump.
If you're interested in more information, and especially on a technical video like this, if there's anything I've forgotten or want to add later, keepyourdaydream.com/F450. You'll get the breakdown of the install links and everything. But as it relates to Max-Bilt, Max-Bilt.com?
Max-Bilt.com.
And services, like a quick rundown on the services you provide?
Yep, so we are a full service shop, general repair facility. We're part of the TechNet community, so any work that gets done here is covered from coast to coast. 2-year, 24,000 mile
Yeah, so
warranty.
Phil was telling me about this. This is a cool program. So he's a TechNet shop. So let's just say, wouldn't happen here, even though we have some spare parts, leftover parts. But let's just say I had an air leak or something happened down the road and I was back in Texas. I could go into the TechNet network, look up a shop, and it's essentially warranted, right?
Yep, yeah, absolutely. So if there's any work that, was due to a faulty part or poor workmanship, you just look up a TechNet shop wherever you're located, get over there, and if you got to get towed, you get towing coverage as well.
So I thought that was cool, especially being an RVer, because the likeliness, as much as I like you and as good of work as you do, I'm probably not going to be swinging by through Eau Claire, Wisconsin, right? No, Eau Claire.
It's Eau
Claire, Wisconsin. So the fact that there's a warranty program.
It's that peace of mind.
And then the other thing I was thinking, of course I'm here for the airbags, and I know there's a lot of people that tow trailers, but also being a Jeep shop, I know there's a lot of people out there that have Class A's, they're looking to get like a Blue Ox or anything to tow their Jeep, so I would think this is a pretty good place for that.
Absolutely. All that stuff, we're able to do it. So.
All right, my rotator timer is going off. So some people were surprised you get an F450, you put in air. I wouldn't say that air is 100% necessary for the squat alone, because an F450 is not going to squat very much. The hitch weight of our Grand Design Momentum 399 toy hauler is 3,600 pounds. And when we hooked up for the first time, it squat pretty minimal, I would say. But in our F250, on a bumper pole, it squat a lot, and air made all the difference just in terms of a level ride, make sure the cambers were proper and whatnot. But I got air for a couple reasons. One is, I did want it absolutely perfectly level. And second, having onboard air is awesome when you need to fill up your tires. We're running G-rated tires on the toy hauler. That's 110 PSI, that's the max cold. And we have 125 PSI tank, so I can just hook up to the bumper and we can fill our air anytime we want. So having onboard air is an advantage. I will say though, when I compare now the Airlift to the Viair, I think the Viair pump was a little bit faster. It got the tank to 125 PSI faster. And the other thing is, and this is probably a big consideration, this Schrader valve that comes with Airlift is not really that helpful. It's 125 PSI. When you put that on there, it doesn't really seal. So I'm in the process now of going to change the Schrader valve out to a standard quick disconnect instead of this thing. So that's a change I'm going to make there. But in terms of the performance of the Airlift bags, they've been fine. I adjust the. Oh, but I do want to show you the location. So let's come up here. Absolutely love the location of the gauge that we put in right here. So this is a great location. Thank you, Mark Wise. And I think it's super clean, it's easy to get into, and you don't have to open up your middle console, and this is how we increase the air. All right, so one thing we didn't talk about is the fuel economy and the fuel range. Wanted to make sure Trish was here for this because you like a good fuel range.
I do. I loved our upgrade in our 250, my personal favorite.
What she's talking about is the 60-gallon transfer flow fuel tank that we put in. That was awesome. The reason we didn't do it on this truck is because it has a stock 48 gallons, which quite frankly has been completely sufficient, wouldn't you say?
Plenty.
In terms of fuel economy, we are combined 10 miles to the gallon. So I think I'm getting somewhere like 8.5, 9 towing, and probably 12, 13 not towing, but we tow so much, it's created a combined 10. Other important numbers, I'm just gonna go off of my memory here, but I'm gonna overlay the actual numbers. The F450.
This will be a fun game. Do they match?
The F450 gross combined vehicle weight rating is close to 42,000 pounds, which is enormous. The towing capacity for the 4x4 option, which is what we have, is, I believe, 32, might actually be more, but right around 32,000 pounds, which again is huge. The payload of this truck is close to 5,000 pounds. I suppose the final question, Trish, is would we buy an F450 again?
We would buy an F450 again if we were looking for like another rig, another.
Like if we needed to have a massive fifth wheel?
In my opinion, this is a as needed truck.
I agree.
So my personal favorite is the 250 with a big gas tank.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
All right, I hope this video was helpful for you. Next Sunday, we're going to be up in Hayward, Wisconsin at the Lumberjack Festival Championships. And let me tell you something, cool. It was awesome. So join us next Sunday for that episode. And if you're new here, click the subscribe button because we release a new video every Sunday at 7. Yes. And we're just wrapping up season 7 as we go through the Heartland, and we have some awesome stuff planned for this winter. Other than that, if you are not new here, you tune into KYD every Sunday, don't forget to click the thumbs up button, and we will catch you next Sunday.
Bye.